Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. In pursuance of a request from one of the viewers of my channel for a workbook, an Excel workbook, to make calculations for the starters and rulers as advocated by the technique of Seshadri Iyer, I am introducing this Excel workbook and illustrating how to use it. So, Seshadri Iyer was a pioneer in the field of astrology, and he was even in the early 1960s, I think. He innovatively brought in this new method of essentially using the Panchanga elements itself in Dasha Bhukti reading, which we are missing even today. There is no proper usage of this, is what I feel. Once you know the date of birth and time of birth, you can cast the chart using this Excel and you can figure out what the tithi is. Based upon the tithi, he brings out what are called Dagda Rashis. Each tithi, whether it be Shukla Paksha or Krishna Paksha, there are some Rashis which are fully burnt out for those tithis. So, in case I have taken an example file here, this is the case of Sir Abdul Kalam, where the Dagda Rashi, so he was born in Shukla Chaturthi. So Chaturthi, the fourth Tithi, he has two Dagda Rashis, the Rishabh and Aquarius. Whereas for Chaturdashi, in fact, that's the only pitiable Tithi where four Rashis are burnt. And of course, you don't have to be worried on this count alone because some negative planets here can in fact be helpful. They getting burnt would be helpful to the native. So it's you'll have to be careful on reading the charts that way. And not only the tithi aspect, we have the weekday, which is also used in the calculations to in fact find a ruler, basically a starter for a dasha and a ruler for a dasha. So I'll take you through that a little later. And yoga, see, the yoga is the sun plus moon plus Pushya nakshatra. So that would be a particular degree. So if you check this, the sun plus moon would be involving the sun plus moon plus Pushya nakshatra. So that would be determining the yoga in which the person is born. And this is an important factor which is useful in finding out. This is called the birth yogi. There's a planet associated with each yoga, and that is determining the birth yogi. So if you check here, depending on what this number is, it will pull out what is. For Abdul Kalam, it is the Venus happens to be the birth yogi, and there is a Sahayogi, which is Surya, which is also a good planet for him. And Avayogi, so each of the planets has a Avayogi. If Sun, Saturn is the Avayogi, and there is a list here. For Venus, Jupiter is a Avayogi. Since Venus happens to be the yogi, natal yogi, Jupiter happens to be the Avayogi for the person here. So this is the Graha and the Avayogi chart. And now, once you know the yogi, the day of birth, and the tithi, to read the effect of a bhukti, what you need to, you just list down the list of bhuktis. That is likable, when all the 9 gragas can come as bhuktis. So you know the degrees which the Excel already pulls using the Swedish ephemeris and all the nakshatras and all that it pulls. And there is a star in which these planets are placed. So that is also identified by the Excel. Now, the idea for these columns are, you have to count from Surya star to the Bhukti Lord star. So what is that number? And twice of that. He gives the reasons. You can go into his book to New Techniques of Predictions, 2 volumes, great books to figure out the reasons for all that. Then you similarly, just from Surya star you did, you also do from moon star, but the moon's progressed star, which moon's progressed means it is the dasha. The dasha would be indicative of the moon's progress. Suppose if we take the Venus dasha, you can choose different dashas to study the effects. If you choose Venus dasha, since he was born, if you see, he was born in Anuradha star, and that means Saturn dasha would have started initially. Then it will slowly progress. He would next Jeshta, which would be Mercury dasha. Then it would be Mula, which would be all that, which be Ketu dasha, and so on and so forth. So each dasha basically is the progress to moon itself. So from that moon, you will have to calculate the count of each of these planets star. So that becomes Yam. So if I choose Venus, it becomes Purvashada for him. Purvashada, and count has to be from Purvashada. Then twice of this 2x plus Yam, which is this is Yam. You calculate that plus the weekday. So the weekday gets into the calculation this way. So that gives a number, and you modify it with, you find the mod with respect to 27, and then you arrive at a nakshatra, and that would give essentially a starter. So essentially, the Surya Bhukti for him would actually be starting by Surya Bhukti itself. If you take Jupiter Bhukti, it would be started by Rahu for him. So these are called starters. These are how starters are found. Now, to find the bhukti, it's quite easy. You don't have to even walk through all this. Mentally, you can calculate easily. What you have to do is, if the graha transforms to its starter, what will the nakshatra lord transform to? You have to answer this question. So let us take some examples. Suppose we take Venus. Venus is the graha that transforms to a starter. In this case, it transforms to Rahu. So Venus Dasha, in Vimshotri, it is after Ketu, it is Venus. Then Venus has become Rahu. So Venus, then Surya. Venus was 1, Surya is 2, Chandra is 3. Then you have Mars, which is 4. Then Rahu, which is 5th. So Rahu is the 5th from Venus. So Venus has transformed 5 away. Similarly, Rahu, you transform it 5 away. So after Rahu, you have Rahu, then Jupiter, then you have Saturn, then you have Mercury, then Ketu. 5th is Ketu. So Ketu would be the ruler. So it is as simple as that. You don't have to walk through all this, but the Excel does all that for you as well. So these are the starters of a Dasha Bhukti. These are the rulers of the Bhukti. So he makes a neat matrix out of this, where he lists down all the bhuktis in a specific manner. He takes Surya at the top and Chandra at the bottom, and then from the bottom he writes the planets in the order of the Vimshotri. After Moon, you have the Mars, you have Rahu, you have Jupiter, Saturn, Mercury, Ketu, Venus, and Surya. After that, he writes the planets in the order of their weekdays and also ascendant. And there are some calculations. Basically, the starters from here are listed here for each of the bhuktis. So basically, the Excel does it for you. Similarly, the Dasa rulers are also put in here. How to use these starters and rulers is the idea behind it. And essentially, there are triplets. If you see in this particular dasha, he has only some specific colors here, just Surya, Rahu, and Mercury. If you see, these will be Surya, Rahu, Mercury. Those are a triplet set. That will be the starters for the entire dasha. If you choose another dasha, it will be exactly only 3 colors. In this case, Surya, Rahu, Bhukti again for this dasha. Some other dasha, it is some other triplet. It is Moon, Jupiter, and Ketu. Moon, Jupiter, and Ketu. So only the triplets would be always the starters, one of the triplets. And triplets idea is, if one becomes the yogi, the entire triplet is more or less a yogi for the person. And the others are, one becomes a Avayogi, those triplets are Avayogis. So that way, that use is to be made use of. And just as you had a birth yogi, you can also find a Dasa yogi, and that is also found in the Excel. So that depends upon whether what dasha it is, and you can go through the calculations in the book. I do it in the Excel directly. And there is also a Dasa Raja Yogi. A Dasa Raja Yogi is one, which is repetitive here. You can also read it from the book. So all these are calculated. The parameters are to use are the Dasa Yogi, Dasa Raja Yogi, and the Birth Yogi. These have to be put in, and Avayogis have to be tackled. And there is also a concept of what he calls the mathematical navamsa chart. How that is calculated is basically, each of the planets is in a particular star. Here I put Chitra 2, Anuradha 3rd pada, Vishaga 2nd pada, Chitra 1st pada. It is all calculated by the Excel. Now when you see this chart, each of these would have given, see, you have the Ashwini 1, Ashwini 2, Ashwini 3, all these 9 padas of Ashwini are listed here. So it is the last columns in each of these is the pada of each of the stars in that pada. These are the navamsa. Ashwini 1 would fall here. Similarly, you go around and these are the navamsa position of the planets. So all the first padas will fall here of these stars. So any star that is bold, which means in the Rasi and in the Navamsa, it is the same position. So that is called a Vargotama Pada. If it's in italics, what it means is, let us take some example. Here, Rogini is basically the Ashwini 2, second Pada of Ashwini in the Rasi chart has given its place to Rogini first Pada. And if you see, that is put in italics, exchanging padas. So let us look for Rogini 1. Okay, where is Rogini 1? If you see where is Rogini 1, Rogini 3 is there. Ashwini 2, right? Ashwini 2, it should be here. So Rogini 1, that is right. Ashwini would be somewhere here. Okay. Rogini 1. Okay, let us take maybe some other example. I'm missing it to see quickly. So Rogini 3 is Punarvasu, and Punarvasu 2 in the Rasi chart is given to Rogini 3. And if you see Rogini 3, right? Rogini 1, 2, 3, it's Punarvasu 2. So basically the interchange of position of the Navamsa chart and the Rasi chart. So that is highlighted in the, so if there is a exchange like that, it's put in italics, and that means there is a connection between these two gragas, depending on the, see, the Rogini 3 means you can relate nakshatra to Jupiter here, the moon to Jupiter here. There is a strong connection between the two planets. So this is the mathematical Navamsa chart that you can use. Let us take the example of Abdul Kalam ji. He was born and a family which was poverty stricken, and even at the birth, of course, they were rich earlier, but when he was born, I think they had a trouble, and he was born in Saturn Dasha and Rahu Bhukti. So Saturn Dasha, by nature, Saturn is a planet of all the poverty related, especially in the birth time. And the birth time is normally ruled by moon, and moon is Nicha for him, though it's the Lagna Lord, it is Nicha. There is Nicha Banga. Jupiter is exalted, Jupiter is aspecting it. Saturn has gone to the 6th house. So, I mean, these are general concepts, but Dagda Rashis, lot of the Dagda Rashis for is Dagda Rashi would be coming from year and year. So, the 7th house from the moon has got into Dagda Rashi, his Aquarius has got into Dagda Rashi. So, he was born in Karkataka Lagna, 8th house of difficulties is a Dagda Rashi in a way which is good. So, some okay, now let us study different life events of Abdul Kalam ji. He did not marry at all. That's so Dagda Rashi in the 7th from moon. That's the reason I could think of. 7th Lord Saturn is in the 6th for him. The 7th Lord gives it samsa too. The 12th from where he is. So 7th Lord gives it samsa to the 12th from where he is. So the 7th Lord is Saturn. So if you see, one thing is Saturn has gotten back to 6th house, which itself is bad. And any 12th house from Saturn is normally a loss. So that is the 5th house in a way. So loss of children itself, that is an indication. But let us get back to what I have written here. 7th Lord gives it samsa to the 12th from where he is. That calculation comes from Saturn. So Saturn, if you see, he has given it to Jeshta 1. So Purvashada 4th Pada is where Saturn is placed in Dhanu Rasi. He has given is the Amsha to Jeshta 1. If you basically see this chart, Purvashada 4th Pada is going to Jeshta 1. So that is 7th house has gone back and given is Amsha. So this is something that is coming forth from Seshadri Iyer's method. So we can use this. So this is one of the reasons. And if you can also see 7th in D30 is afflicted, so that is there. If you take D30, which is I am using Lagri Ayanamsa, and the normal traditional D30, the 7th house has all the Rahu Ketu elements there. So that is there. Afflicted Navamsa in the 1-7 axis. So if you take Navamsa, see Saturn, first of all, planet of difficulty Saturn, and two evil planets, Saturn, Mars in the axis. I think this comes from any of the Navamsas, other variations as well. Afflicted Venus in D9 and UKM. So if you uniform Krishna Mishra's method as recommended by PVRG, you have Saturn, Mars again. The Venus is also severely afflicted there with the Rahu Ketu. That's showing up there. No children. 5th Lord in the 12th in D7. I checked D7 and 7. I checked go and the ending in reverse as PVRG uses. The 5th Lord, Surya, has gone to the 12th house. So even with Legri Ainamsa, this seems to be working correctly, indicating no children for him. Okay, and he wanted to become a IAF pilot, of becoming a fighter pilot. Was placed in the 9th in qualifiers, and only 8 positions were available in the IAF, and he was losing it. Looks like he lost it in 1960 or so when Ketu and Mercury Dasha were running. And I wanted to check the Ketu Dasha, so I looked into this, choose Ketu. So all the Mercury Dasha, Bhukti, these are the Bhuktis basically. So Mercury Bhukti, this row basically. So it started by Jupiter, which is an Avayogi. So that itself is bad for him. And the ending in Mercury, which is the ruler. So Seshadri Iyer calls it as a Mercury crossing Jupiter and Mercury. So Mercury is a bad planet. Mercury is somewhat okay because Surya, I think, is a birth yogi for him. He is a birth Sahayogi. But Jupiter is bad. And to some extent, Mercury is also the 12th Lord. So this is, he missed it narrowly. And that's one thing. But he became a space scientist. So that's another story. So shifted to ISRO in Venus Rahu. Venus Rahu was a, let us check Venus Dasha for him. Okay, Venus Dasha, Venus is a birth yogi. So Venus Dasha is the Dasha of the birth yogi itself. So that should be great. Dasa Yogi happens to be moon, which is not good for him. But Surya becomes the Dasa Raja Yogi, so partially compensated. So that way, if you see, all the planets starting the Dasha are Surya and Rahu and Mercury. So during the entire period, he was shifted to show in Venus Rahu. So let us check Rahu Bhukti. Okay, you have the Rahu Bhukti, this row. Rahu itself starts the Rahu Bhukti, and you have the Mars ending it. So Rahu is a planet for space, and anything to do with the airy elements, and Mars the planet for activity and action. So Venus and Mars are all same triplet sets. So he also becomes yogi. So it was a great time that shift. He became an advisor to the Prime Minister in Moon Mercury. So let us check Moon Dasha. Okay, Moon Mercury Bhukti. So this is Mercury Bhukti. Moon itself is starting the Dasha. It is again the Dasha Yogi is Venus. So that again is good. And Rahu is ending it. See, great Rahu, the 9th house placement of Rahu as an advisor, because the 9th is the house of the Guru. So he became the Guru during that time as an advisor. So Rahu and the moon is placed in the 5th house of consultancy and all that. So that also seems to be explaining well. He was offered the great, adorned with the Bharat Ratna in Mars Rahu. So let us check Mars Dasha Rahu Bhukti. Mars Dasha was great for him. So let us get into next Dasha, which is Mars. And Mars Rahu, if you see, Surya is a fantastic planet for him because Surya is a Vargotama planet. You don't see the navamsa. This is the general navamsa, Parashara's navamsa. Surya is a Vargotama planet for him. He has exalted Jupiter. He has Amsa Mahapurusha Yoga as well as Malavya Yoga, Mahapurusha Yogas, and he has Mercury exalted. He has Surya, which is Vargotama. So, but Lagna Lord is Nicha. So, ninth house Rahu is also not that great. Jupiter is aspecting it, and it's in the ninth house of Jupiter itself. Okay, that apart, Surya, when we come to use a Seshadri Iyer's method, Surya is the first row here, and Surya is Chitra 2. And Chitra 2, if you see, not only is it Vargotama, Chitra 2 is going to Chitra 2 itself here. So it is offering it is to its own nakshatra, gives the amsa to its own nakshatra. So that's the power. Surya means, yeah, adornment, power, and authority. All that comes in automatically. So Surya is also a yogi for him, and it's a political power also. I mean, that Bharat Ratna is very well explained. Program in Mars, Jupiter. You don't normally expect Jupiter to be connected with bomb blast. I mean, these blasts and all. But let's see. Mars Dasha, Jupiter Bhukti. When you come to Jupiter Bhukti in his chart, it's starting with Rahu, and Rahu is definitely connected with bombs and blasts. And finally, you have the Mars, which is the planet again for all these trials. So this is violent, and I mean, though Jupiter, we don't expect it, we clearly see from Seshadri Iyer's method that Jupiter can give these things to the native. And Mars is a yogi planet, partly triple set with Venus. So it did him all the good. That is something remarkable, which I don't think we can easily see from the other way of looking at it. President, he became in Mars Venus. So Venus was great for him. So in Mars Bhukti, which is a yogi, partly in Mars Bhukti, if you check the Mars year, it is started by Mercury, which is not that great a planet for him, and ending in Saturn. So that seems to be not very in Mars Venus, right? Sorry, it would be Venus. So I'm checking the last Bhukti. These should be the Bhuktis. So Venus is in fact the birth yogi itself, and that yogi is starting with Mercury but ending at Jupiter, and that also just because it's the power of Venus. Uh, and the birth yogi, that power prevailed, looks like. And Rahu and Mercury, basically part of yogi of these triplet stars. So Mercury is also good. I think I read it wrongly. Mercury is a good planet for him. So that's also explained. And unfortunately, his death in 2015 happened to be in Rahu Venus. Let us check Rahu Venus. It is Rahu Dasha, so it is to be checked for Rahu Dasha here. And you check the Venus Bhukti here. Venus is such a nice planet, why did it kill him? See, first of all, it starts with Saturn. So that itself is health issues and problems like that. Though Saturn is a Avayogi when Surya is the Sahayogi. So Saturn is not that great. Though one front Venus is a good yogi and Saturn goes well with it. So Saturn has both good and bad effects. And in his case, it is yeah, at a old age Saturn with problems only, and it's ending up in Rahu. So Venus Dasha ending up in the ruler determining factor is Rahu. And let us check what Rahu is handing over. So this is basically Rahu, and it is in Uttarabhadra for his chart. It is in Uttarabhadra star, and it is handing over its Gamsa to Uttara Palguni, which is exactly fourth pada. Uttara Palguni fourth pada is exactly opposite. Uttara Palguni fourth pada. UP4. So that is exactly opposite to where is Rahu is. So that's why the seventh house got activated. So that's something very bad for him. And let us check Venus also. sorry, is Venus. Venus is here and is Purvashada third pada. Okay, it's handing off from Swati, it is going to Purvashada third pada. So that doesn't seem to be, only thing is it is nearer to Saturn's uh, placement itself. And 12th to that is in fact Saturn sitting there. So in 12th nakshatra to that, I think in Purvashada itself, fourth pada. Oh, okay. Purvashada, fourth pada itself, it is the third pada. So Venus is sitting just behind Saturn, which is a killer. That way is the seventh lord. So that's also looks like an answerable. Yeah, you can try using this. I feel this is an extremely powerful technique which we are missing. So I want to put it to the community so that we can do more research on this. Okay, thank you.